Okay, good evening. It being 5:30 of the clock, I shall call this meeting of the Council of the Town of Fort Frances to order. It's a public meeting. We'll begin with the territorial acknowledgement. And I will give credit for this acknowledgement. This land acknowledgement is used with the permission of those who wrote it, them being the Canadian Mental Health Association in Fort Frances. So we begin by acknowledging that we are within Treaty 3 territory and that the land on which we live and work is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people and the homeland of the Métis Nation. As taught by a Treaty 3 Ojibwe elder, when we speak about the land, we recognize that we are the land. The land is all of us, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous. The land is a collection of our history, our current experiences, and our future together. We offer this land acknowledgement in the spirit of reconciliation, recognizing the historical and contemporary impacts of colonialism, while committing to working together as Indigenous and non-Indigenous people to build a better future. Councillor, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest, and if so, state the general nature thereof? Seeing none, I'll move on to item number 4, and item 4.1 is a statement of purpose. The purpose of this meeting is to hear public comment on applications to amend the official plan, that's file C1-2024, and zoning bylaw, file B1-2024, and plan of subdivision, file A1-2024. From agent Scatliff and Miller, who seek to redesignate the property at 301 and 325 Nelson Street, North Mill Complex, PC, from light industrial in the employment designation to a mixed use in the downtown business area designation, and further to subdivide this land into several parcels. The purpose for these applications is to permit the potential future development of a mixed use wellness precinct. Moving on to item 4.2. Again, this public meeting is being held in accordance with the Planning Act regarding the proposed amendments to the official plan and zoning bylaw 03/14 and further application for a plan of subdivision. The required notice has been provided publicly, with notice being provided via the Fort Frances Times on February 15th, 2024. The intent of this meeting is for residents of Fort Frances and Council to receive details about these applications, as well as to allow for residents to voice concerns or to voice support for the proposed amendments to the official plan, zoning bylaw, and plan of subdivision. Decision will not be made by council on this matter tonight. So at this time, I'm going to turn the floor over to our chief building official and municipal planner, John Burrows, to explain the proposed amendments. CBO Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor Halikas. Today, Tom Jansen of Scatliff Miller Murray is here on behalf of owners of the former mill site to discuss their applications for future development of the proposed wellness precinct. These applications for official plan amendment, rezoning, and plan of subdivision serve to allow a new, diverse range of commercial, institutional, and residential uses in the southeast portion of the now vacant mill lands. This stage of their development serves to extend the healthcare characteristics of the adjacent hospital by providing opportunities for new clinics, offices, pharmacies, and residences. Further development to the west of the lands is not included in these applications, as they are still in the conceptual stages as outlined in BMI's conceptual land use plan. I'll remind residents that the right to appeal council's decision is only granted to those who make an oral statement at this meeting or a written statement prior to the approving bylaws being passed. Both oral and written submissions are to become public information relating to these matters. I'll now turn the floor back over to Mayor Halikas.
Thank you, CBO Burrows. At this time, we will turn the floor over to the applicant, who's represented by Mr. Tom Jansen, and I believe Tom is online. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Your Worship. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, but it seems like winter arrived late this year for you. So next time. I've got a short presentation. I know time is of the essence, so I'll deliver it as efficiently as I can. And can you all see the screen share?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. Um, yeah, so again, my name is Tom Jansen. I'm a registered professional planner. I work with Scatliff Miller Murray. We've been working on behalf of 2670568 Ontario Limited, operating as BMI. For the last few years, both on the conceptual plan and now through this next stage in implementing the first phase of the development on the former mill site. Just as a bit of background for members of the public that might not be familiar, um, the mill closed in 2014 and was purchased by BMI Group in 2019 with the intent to redevelop and revitalize the site. The following year, in 2020, Ajagan Renewal was formed, a partnership between BMI Group and Rainy River First Nation to work together collaboratively on defining the overall vision for the redevelopment of the mill site. That's where our firm got involved in the project. And I'll talk a bit about this later on in the presentation, but we worked with an advisory committee that included representation from the town, Rainy River First Nation through their investment arm, ZB Investment, Rainy River Future Development Corporation, to come up with the concept that was subsequently presented to council. And these three applications that we have in front of you today is really, like I said, the first stage in the implementation and realizing that vision, and builds on environmental study and remedial work that BMI has led, technical studies, and detailed design. The overall vision for the site, the redevelopment of the overall site, is really a monumental project for not only just the project partners, but for the town and for the surrounding district. The concept plan was premised around these five broad aspirations: the notion of revitalizing, and the complete transformation of the site into a thriving urban district. The idea of reception. This is obviously a really critical gateway, not only to the town, Treaty 3, but also Canada. The idea of reconnecting the site back into the town structure, building strong relationships with our Indigenous partners, and really embracing reconciliation in the development. And that's exemplified with BMI's partnership with the Rainy River First Nation. And the idea of resurgence, really stimulating economic development, promoting innovation, and looking at ways to attract new investment to Fort Frances and the region. I won't go through this in detail, but the overall concept plan for the redevelopment of the larger mill site broke the site down into these five distinct precincts: the Market Precinct, Gateway Precinct, Waterfront Precinct, Enterprise Precinct, and what we're talking about today, which is the Phase 1, the Wellness Precinct, which is really trying to leverage the proximity to the La Vérendrye Hospital, and looking at creating kind of a complementary development that builds on that proximity to the hospital and to the downtown. So what's really driving the proposal is two prospective projects that BMI has actively been working on, and like I said, really looking at providing complementary uses that fit well with that adjacency to the hospital. So looking at a mix of clinical space and housing in the renovated stores building, and then what would be the first new development, and I'll get to that in a minute. So as John indicated, we've got three active applications in front of you this evening. The first is an official plan amendment, which is proposing to take the site from its current designation, employment area, and redesignating to the downtown business area, really creating kind of a contiguous designation with the downtown, within the town. What it does is it still maintains opportunity for commercial and employment uses that the existing employment area designation allows, but adds additional flexibility, particularly in terms of residential and industrial uses. And we feel it really provides a compatible transition between the adjacent neighborhoods, the living areas, and the hospital and the downtown and waterfront to the south. Building on that, the subsequent zoning bylaw amendment, the current zoning, as John had indicated, is light industrial M1, which reflects the historic mill use of the property. What we've proposed is the introduction of a new zone to the zoning bylaw. We're calling it a mixed use zone, which is in many ways, you can think of it as a bit of a hybrid between the general commercial, the C2 zone that the bulk of the downtown area is, and the institutional zone. And really, the idea behind that zone is reflects in a lot of ways what we feel is the intent of that the OPA designation that we're seeking, but really a flexible zoning designation that would permit a mix of employment, commercial, residential uses, with the addition of specifically ground floor residential uses that aren't currently permitted in the C2 zone. So we've had excellent collaboration with town administration on this. They've provided some comments in their report on some kind of adjustments and tweaks that they've suggested to some of the zoning regulations that we've proposed. And I think by and large, we're on the same page and understand where they're coming from. And I think we've got a good collaborative relationship to date, and I think it's a good place to build on. The third application, again, directly related to the OPA and the zoning, is what I'd say is really the initial subdivision, and creates the basis for the two prospective projects that we've got that we're actively working on. So we've really, the subdivision does two things. One, delineate the wellness precinct from the larger mill site, and then breaks that up into these three development parcels. So the first lot is still being planned for future development. Lot 2 on your screen is BMI has been working with a group of investors on the development of a mixed-use clinic, and I'll show you some renderings of that project. And then lot 3, which includes, it's a larger lot, which will be broken up in future phases through probably the part lot control process, but it's really to facilitate the redevelopment and adaptive reuse of the existing Portage Stores building on that site. And we've been in discussions with the town, and we know that as this process goes forward, collaboration on the waterfront trail extension and the overall configuration of the lot through the site plan control. Those details will come as the development advances. So just kind of backing up to kind of how we got to these applications. Again, I talked about the conceptual planning process, involved a lot of consultation with Rainy River First Nations through ZB Investments. Again, the town of Fort Francis and the Rainy River Future Development Corporation were part of that initial advisory committee that came up with the concept. That concept was subsequently presented both to the town council and to Rainy River Chief and Council and the Riverside Healthcare Board of Directors. BMI hosted Rainy River First Nation members on the site in July 2023 to preview the concept plan, tour the site, and have a town hall about the future redevelopment. And then just 2 weeks ago, we had an open house where we presented the concept plan and gave a preview of these three applications to the general public. We had about 70 folks come out, and it was largely positive responses. We heard from a lot of folks who are just excited to see development on the site proceed. And then I've just got some renderings. These were in your package. This is the proposed clinic and mixed-use residential clinic on lot 2 of the subdivision. We've got floor plans and conceptual elevations. If you happen to make it out to the open house we hosted, we had a VR station set up, and you could actually go into the building. And likewise, these are renderings of the adaptive reuse of the Portage Stores building. So you can see in the background that proposed wellness clinic and Sinclair running on the diagonal, and then this is the Portage Stores building, kind of looking from if you were on the roof of the emergency department, looking down onto the site. And then some proposed floor plates on how that renovation is going to look. So these are two active projects that BMI and community partners are actually working on and designing, and really driving the desire to get these approvals through. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jansen. We'll move on then to item 5, which is the public portion of our meeting. So at this time, I would like to open the floor to invite members of the public who wish to speak in support of or in opposition to these amendments. Those wishing to speak must provide their full name, address, and phone number, and also those wishing to speak should also state whether they wish to be notified of the decision or not. Again, I will remind everyone that the actual amendments and applications will be considered at a future meeting of council. So just in order to have some sense of logical progression, I'll go first to folks who are online. Is there anyone, any member of the public online who would like to speak to this issue at this moment? If so, please indicate. Again, I will remind anybody who's online, any member of the public online, if you wish to speak in favor of or against this, please speak now. I'm going to ask a third and final time. Any member of the public who's attending the meeting virtually, if you wish to speak to this, please speak now. Hearing no response from online, then I'll go to folks who are in this room. Is there any member of the public in this room who would like to speak to this? Seeing none, we will move on. We move to item 6 on the agenda, which is called communication, and we have a letter from Centra Transmission Holdings Incorporated. Just briefly, I'll summarize that in the letter, Centra Transmission Holdings are supportive of the redevelopment effort as defined. They have no objection at this time to the proposed redevelopment, and the proposed redevelopment does not encroach or overlap with any current pipeline facilities. Does council have any questions? Seeing none, then I'll move to item 7, which is adjournment. Recommendation is that having reached the hour of 5:49, this special meeting of the Council of the Town of Fort Frances now be closed. That's the recommendation. I need a mover and seconder for that. Councillor McTaggart, Councillor Mackey. Calling the question. All in favor? That's carried. No one is opposed. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Jansen. Thank you, Centra.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you, Council.